Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. This isn't going to be too organized of a video. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on it, and because I haven't really talked about it. I've talked about it on my Twitter a little bit, but I just wanted to make a quick video about what I was thinking after having now beaten the game in its entirety and completed the Pokedex and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. First, I'll just get it out of the way. Is it a perfect game? By no means whatsoever. I think it could improve in some ways. What it brought in terms of like good things, it also left a few things out that are bad things. Or left good things out that are bad. So I definitely think after playing this game, I am super psyched for next year's game because I think that'll be the best of both worlds. All the good quality of life things in this game will be brought into next year's game, and all of the stuff that we have come to know and love, abilities, held items, blah, 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 that'll be brought into next year's game again, obviously, because it is supposed to be more of a traditional set of games. Either way, I'm super excited for that. Either way, I enjoyed this game quite a bit. People thought it would be easy, and I'm not gonna lie, it was not the hardest Pokemon game in the world, but rarely are Pokemon games all that hard. People like to think about like, oh, well, back in my day, Pokemon games used to be super hard. No, they didn't. They weren't. You were just young and didn't know how to look things up online or whatever. There are certain trainers and certain experiences that are genuinely difficult. However, Pokemon games as a whole, from Red and Blue or Green all the way up to now in Let's Go, have never been truly hard. And I can attest to that because I played Yellow 2 years ago and I didn't have that much of a trouble with it. So, I'm an adult. I can figure out how to use type advantages and Pokemon moves, I guess. Anyways, I really enjoyed this game a lot. I played Pokemon Eevee Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and because I wanted an experience separate from Pikachu. I played Pokemon Yellow 2 years ago, so I wanted to play a different team. My main team for this game was Eevee. I honestly didn't think I was going to use Eevee because I thought I would just dump Eevee off and have a full team that was completely whatever, and Eevee would just be my mascot, sort of, so to speak. And Eevee ended up being a lot of fun to use. Obviously, it's much tougher than an average Eevee because it's got stat boosts and whatnot, and has access to all the new moves that are incorporated from its evolutions. So obviously it makes the game a little bit easier, but I didn't use Eevee as much as my other 5 team members. I enjoyed using Eevee a lot though. By the end, let's just get this one thing clear. Yes, early game, Eevee was basically overpowered and too much if I were to use it. It was basically my backup. If any of my other team members needed help or whatever, I would send Eevee running in with whatever moves it had on it. Typically Batty Bad and Bouncy Bubble, because those are some pretty decent moves. But early game, yes, it was a little bit overpowered. Later in the game, not as much. By the time I reached the 8th gym, my Eevee's level was about the same as my other team members. And like I did a little grinding here and there to get my team members up to like at least equal leveling. But Eevee was always ahead for a while because I had Eevee the longest, and I ended up grinding for another Pokemon, and so Eevee's level got really high. So, but eventually Eevee's level, like, it matched my other Pokemon pretty well, and I don't know whether that's by design or whether it was just because of what I was doing, but Eevee was not as much of a powerhouse as people thought. I think it would be. Obviously, it is much tougher in general. It's got perfect IVs and whatnot, but I honestly think by the end of the game, your partner Pokemon kind of level out and become normal Pokemon to some degree. But yeah, so that's Eevee. I also used Venusaur. I searched for a Bulbasaur in Viridian Forest. I also used a Charizard. I had not intended on using Charizard. At one point, I thought I was going to use an Arcanine, but I chose Let's Go Eevee and Arcanine. Well, technically you can get an Arcanine, but I wanted one from a Growlithe, and that would require trading. And then I decided, oh, well, it's been a really long time since I've used Charmander, and I don't really have like a current continuity Charmander from my set of Pokemon that I use for each game. So I decided to use Charizard. Next up, I used a Wigglytuff. At one point, it was a Clefable, and that was before I played the game. And then I finally got the game, and I was like, I don't want to use Clefable. I want to use something different. So I got a Jigglypuff, and then I evolved it into Wigglytuff, and that was a lot of fun. Wigglytuff is an interesting Pokemon. It doesn't get its Fairy-type moves until a little later in the game, because its Fairy-type moves are TM learned. The movesets in this game are very weird. Some moves are stripped out for no reason, I think, and some are pushed back in levels, and so there's some weird stuff. So my Wigglytuff didn't learn any like fairy type moves until later in the game, and it had basically like Body Slam and Thunderbolt, and that was a weird like moveset for it, I guess. But it was helpful as far as fighting off birds and water Pokemon, I guess. Then I have Dugtrio, and Dugtrio was also kind of a Pokemon that I kind of decided in the moment to some degree, or at least right before. At one point I wanted Rhydon, but I didn't know when you get Rhyhorn at the point. I didn't know that Rhyhorn was a bit more common rather than the rules around the secret Pokemon had not been revealed until the game came out, so I wasn't entirely sure, and I wanted to make my team set before going in, and I didn't know whether Rhydon would be a secret Pokemon and hard to find, and of course, obviously, it's in Rock Tunnel, so it's like even later in the game anyway, so I wouldn't be able to use it against Lieutenant Surge, so that was a whole thing. Or at least I didn't know what to do. So I used Dugtrio. I like Dugtrio. It's fast, at least mine is. And I have a Sucker Punch on it for some reason. Because, well, I guess I was using it because I wanted to use it as kind of like a ghost killer. Because all of the ghosts are weak to ground. And then I also have Sucker Punch on it, which is good against ghosts. So, yeah, that's why I had Dugtrio on, for electrics in my ghosts. And finally, Eevee, Venusaur, Charizard, Wigglytuff, and Dugtrio. Yes, finally, my last Pokemon that I used, I had decided also kind of late in the game, but this one was special because it was a trade-in from Pokemon Go. It is a shiny Pinsir, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to use a Pokemon from Pokemon Go, but I knew that I wanted something that could go up against Sabrina, and since you can get to Pokemon Go's Go Park before Sabrina, well, I suppose you can technically take on Sabrina prior to that, but I don't know. Either way, I knew that I was going to get to Fuchsia for myself first, and right around there was Pinsir anyways, and then I decided, okay, well, why don't I just trade in my shiny Pinsir, and I can have a shiny on my team. The only other time that I've had a shiny on my main team for a game is Metagross from Oras. I used the event Metagross from, well, event Beldum, which then evolves into a Metagross. And yeah, so those are my team members: Eevee, Venusaur, Charizard, Wigglytuff, a Dugtrio, and a shiny Pinsir. I enjoyed this game quite a bit. I just wanted to say that again. I got off on a tangent about my team. I thought it was just the right amount of difficulty for what I was expecting. It was actually harder in some areas than I thought it would be. In Lavender Tower, or Pokemon Tower, whatever. Lavender Town, Pokemon Tower, Cemetery place, non-stop toxic. And if you brought in a Pokemon that was like not weak to toxic, then they would just hit you with Will-O-Wisp. And that's like basically, so you either use a Pokemon that is not weak to toxic, or use a Pokemon that is weak to Will-O-Wisp, whatever. Either way, it was much tougher. I had to use a lot of full heals and antidotes and whatever, And I found that interesting. There were certain spots where I thought it was actually harder. There were some trainers that I thought were harder than maybe the gym leaders, and that was interesting too. Now, as far as the catch mechanic, let's move on to that. I like generally catching. I think Pokemon in the overworld is super, super cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I like being able to see the shiny Pokemon in the overworld too. I love seeing all the Pokemon in the overworld. I hope that's something that they move forward and continue having. Random encounters are fine sometimes, but I don't really care for that. As far as the lack of wild battling, the only time that I didn't care for the catch mechanics is for the legendaries. And technically you battled them. So you battle them and they just basically, as long as your Pokemon are at their level or stronger, you're not going to have too much trouble. Mewtwo gave me a little pushback because I was a little weaker than it. But all the legendary birds were pretty easy to take down. It was once I got to the capture mechanics, their catch rates are so ridiculous that it is, even with a bunch of Ultra Balls and even a bunch of berries, they were impossible to catch. They have this weird mechanic around them where they burn up the berries or deflect them, and only sometimes do they get through. And for the life of me, I could not catch certain, like Zapdos. Yeah, Zapdos is the first one I caught of them. And I had over 100 Ultra Balls, and I was down to like maybe 40. I was pretty pissed after that. I think out of all of them, the easiest was maybe, I think Articuno. Articuno, I only had to throw a couple of balls at it. Overall, the catch mechanic, I love it because it makes it super easy to catch Pokemon, and it's actually kind of fun. However, with legendaries and Pokemon maybe that are a little harder to catch in general, I do wish that there was some way that I could catch them without having to waste resources. I think that's my biggest issue with it, is it takes a lot of money to get the resources up to catch Pokemon, and then when one just blows through it all, that's a bit much. I shouldn't waste my... when I go to catch Pokemon in Ultra Moon, I get maybe 30 Pokeballs of whatever variety. And then I battle it, I weaken it, I bring it down to whatever, and I maybe paralyze it or put it to sleep or whatever. And then I throw Pokeballs, and it doesn't take that many Pokeballs. As long as I met those conditions, I can do it. With the legendary birds, at the very least, I couldn't even meet those conditions. I had golden raspberries, and I couldn't do it. And that was really frustrating to me, because berries are not like super easy to come by sometimes. You can mine them to some degree, but that takes time in its own right. Plus, then the Pokeballs take money. So that was my only gripe with the game, honestly. Is I wish that the resources, I wish that you could better use the resources for what they were, or maybe make them even more available if you're going to have it like this. Either way, I would not be against them bringing this mechanic forward, as long as it is a side thing and you could choose to toggle it on and off. I really like it as just generally catching, though. It's not hard to catch Pokemon in general. It's just the legendaries. That's my only gripe. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I know I was all over the place a little bit. Overall, I really enjoyed Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. It is an adorable game. It is so cute. Eevee alone is just that I would pay $60 just for like an Eevee petting simulator. That is super, super cute. Everything that was in the game is just not only just cute, but really cool to look at. I thought they did a really good job of rebuilding Kanto. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the game, at least at a superficial level. Let me know what you guys thought. If you played the game, if you haven't played the game, I highly recommend it. It's not for everyone, but it is a super, super fun game in general, just to take as a chill game that maybe you consider it as like I'm just going to play this while I'm waiting for next year's game. That might be a little more difficult and a little bit more up to what standard that traditional games would be at. But yeah, so let me know what you guys thought if you played the game. down below, and let me know what your teams were. I want to hear what you guys, what kind of teams you guys went into this game with. I will see you guys in another video. Bye-bye.